Okay, we are in Decoy Woods near the village of Walesby, and this has got two main features in these woods. It's end of March, so spring's just here. The main thing is it's a decoy, what's known as a duck decoy, which is basically an artificial lake with two channels that they used to entice ducks for slaughter before shotguns. It's the oldest one in the country, believed to have been built in the late 1500s. But as I just very slowly pan around, this is just marshy area, and through the trees, hopefully you will just pick out there's a mound, and that is Haughton, Mott and Bailey Castle, dating from probably the time of the civil war with King Stephen. He was on the throne 1135 to 1154, and why they built a castle here, and nobody has got a clue, but we'll get a bit closer to it. So this is the decoy pond, which is actually man-made, it's not natural, and basically what would happen is here the birds would naturally come fly, nest on the banks around here, but they normally come to feed, and there were two channels, one on either side of this, which eventually narrow to a dead end, and the ducks would be enticed into the two channels, and there would be nets over the channels. They would trap the birds and they would be taken away, and these would be eaten at Haughton Hall, which doesn't exist anymore. It was knocked down about 250 years ago, and although I'm stood behind the tree here and you probably still can't see, but just through the trees there is the Mott and Bailey, and that was here well before this decoy was built. As I said earlier, it's one of the earliest decoys in the country, if not the earliest, probably built by the Dutch, who were already making them back in the 1500s, and we have this one here. It was only stopped being used in the late 20th century, I believe, and there's still people obviously come here because we've just come over a little wooden bridge, but a natural place, really nice in the summer, but it's that overgrown we can't get in the summer. And this overgrown channel is one of the channels where they would catch the ducks. It wasn't just ducks, it was any wildfowl really, and they would have captured them somewhere at this end. The other channel's over the far side where the Mott is. Now at the southern end of Decoy Woods, and this here we think is one of the two entrances to the Bailey, and hopefully the camera's going to show this alright. But here we have the actual outer ditch on the southern end of the Mott and Bailey Castle. So obviously it would have been a lot deeper in days of old, but the castle would have fallen out of use not long, I would think, after the reign of Stephen. It may have lasted into the 1200s, maybe a little later, but very little is known about the castle in here, and nobody knows who built it, why they built it. A lot of conjecture, but the place is very little known, even to locals. Some locals actually think this is the site of a Roman burial, but I can assure you that it's not. It is listed as an ancient monument by English Heritage, but very little is actually known about it. So we've battled through the undergrowth, even though it's just a very early spring, it's still quite bad, and here we have what I believe is an 11-metre high Mott. So this was a castle from very nearly 1,000 years ago. Nobody really knows very much about it. Although we've got water around us, this is just natural water, it's not a ditch. So this is the Mott of the Mott and Bailey. We're actually in the Bailey, which is again very, very large for a castle. It's 100 metres across in places, which is not unheard of, but very big, because this doesn't stand near any main road or any main area or house or whatever to be defended. It was just the small village of Haughton, and behind me the village of Walesby, which is half, 3/4 of a mile away. So why did they build it? What was the reason? Though the top of the The motte isn't very large today. It would have been substantially larger when it was built nearly 1,000 years ago. But the view must have been quite stunning for the time, for the area, because we're fairly low down behind the ridge to the east of us. So it must have had an imposing view across the surrounding land. And just over there, literally a mile or so over there, was the edge of Sherwood Forest. So quite an imposing view of the road, the Nottingham to York road, which runs, well, literally less than half a mile over there. They don't know whether it was just a timber building on the top or whether it was a later stone one built, but the size of the place, you would think possibly there was a stone one, but it's listed, so it will only ever be excavated by archaeologists with special licence, and it is really still quite imposing.